Greetings to all, my name is Grudar and welcome to day 6 of Eldritch Moon spoilers. Now this is a new week and this weekend there were a bit of spoilers still. I don't know why, that's not usually how they do it, but anyway, it doesn't really matter, we're gonna be covering them right now. So the first spoiler is Turn Aside, which is 1 blue for an instant. Counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. Meh. It's probably too situational to play in really any format. Because in Limited, you don't really know how many of your opponent's spells are actually gonna target permanents you control. And this doesn't counter enchantment removal. And yeah, it might just be a dead card. In Standard, there aren't really that many spells you want to counter that target permanents you control. Like the Silk Wrap-like effects don't get countered by it. So even though it's only a 1 mana counter spell, I don't think it's gonna see play. Summary Dismissal is 2 generic 2 blue for an instant. Exile all other spells and counter all abilities. This is a good counter spell. It exiles all other spells, that means, and counters all abilities, so that means everything on the stack is gone. Basically everything. And really, like, exiling spells goes around countering abilities, counters cast triggers, like for example new Ulamog's cast trigger, new Emrakul's cast trigger. So that's a great card and it's 4 mana, so I think this is going to see play at the very least in Standard, maybe in Modern. Maybe outside of Modern, again, I don't really know about anything outside of those formats. In Limited, yeah, it's a good counterspell. Spirit of the Hunt is 1 generic 2 green for a 3/3 wolf spirit with flash, and when it enters the battlefield, each other creature you control that's a wolf or werewolf gets +0/+3 until end of turn. That was a weird 3. But anyway, this is an interesting card. So it's good, but maybe too situational. Obviously, in Limited, this is gonna be really great. It's a 3/3 creature with flash. That would be good by itself. And if you have wolves or werewolves, great. That's just upside. In Standard, maybe. Werewolf decks probably won't be strong enough to stand a chance against all the other strong decks. But I don't know, we'll see. I don't think this has a place anywhere out of Limited though. Providence is 5 generic 2 white for a sorcery. You may reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, at the beginning of the first upkeep, your life total becomes 26. First off, this card is terrible into a giant. Oh yeah, and if you cast it, your life total becomes 26. So this card is terrible into a giant because your life total is 30. You don't want to reduce that back to 26. Obviously, if you get really low, you can turn it back up to 26, but it's 7 mana. So I'm pretty sure this card won't see play anywhere. Because it's way too slow for Standard. The 6 life isn't gonna matter. And then 7 mana, nope. And in Limited, it's just not good enough. Maybe like as a really top of the curve in some strategies in Limited, but I doubt it. Ishkanah, Grafwidow is 4 generic, 1 green for a 3/5 legendary creature spider with reach and delirium. When it enters the battlefield, you put 3 1/2 green spider creature tokens with reach onto the battlefield, and for 7 you can make target opponent lose 1 life for each spider you control. That's a lot of text. But this is a legendary spider. It's the first legendary spider ever. So rejoice, Spider Commander players all around the world, because this allows you to play green-black spiders in Commander. Tribal, obviously. Yeah. Standard? No. Obviously not. This card was made for Commander and limited. As with most mythics, this card is insane in limited. It's a 3/5 reach for 5, which is and if you have delirium, it's 6/11 worth of stats, which is obviously not a 6/11, but it's 6/11 worth of stats for 5. And for 7 mana you can make an opponent lose at least 1 life. So it's good late in the game. Just a generally good card for Commander and limited. Rough translation incoming. United Resistance is 1 generic double red for a sorcery with escalate 1. Choose 1 or more. Target player discards all cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards. United Resistance deals 4 damage to target creature, or United Resistance deals 3 damage to target opponent. Yeah, this is really a solid burn card. You can get rid of your opponent's hand if you know they have some good cards. You can get rid of your own hand if you have some bad cards you don't want to have. You can deal 4 damage to a creature, so basically remove most of the creatures you want to remove. And you can deal 3 damage to an opponent, which can obviously be redirected to a Planeswalker, which is usually what you're gonna be using this 3rd mode on. So yeah, it's great. For usually you will want to cast this for 4 mana because of the double effect, or it can just be the 1 mode, 4 damage to target creature, or it can just kill a Planeswalker. It's really useful. It has a lot of modes. It really feels like a rare burn spell in red, which is a long time since we've actually had a proper rare useful burn spell in red. And yeah, this card will probably see standard play. And in limited, it's great. In limited, it's really great. Do keep in mind, if you're playing to a giant for the pre-release and you get this card, you can use the first mode to make your ally discard his hand and draw that many cards, because you can see your ally's hand. So that's a really interesting mechanic that makes it even better. Nephalia Academy is an uncommon land. It can tap for colorless, and if a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard a card, you may reveal that card and put it on top of your library instead of putting it anywhere else. Sure, it's a decent filler land, and if you need some colorless mana, you can get your colorless mana. Some interesting rulings with this card though. If you discard a card to the top of your library, you still discard it. So for example, Waste Not and all that will still trigger off it, but for example, Guerrilla Tactics will still trigger, making it, giving it back on top of your library and still dealing 4 damage. So that's a really great interaction. But this probably won't really see play outside of Commander or limited. Unless somehow discard-like decks become really prevalent, but that's not gonna happen. Oath of Liliana is 2 generic 1 black for a legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. At the beginning of each end step, if a planeswalker entered the battlefield under your control this turn, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. I'll keep watch. Happy now? Pretty cool there, Liliana. So yeah, this is a really interesting card. So it's basically a flashback marauder, but one-sided, except you don't get to keep the flashback marauder if you have something worse, but it has some nice effect with the planeswalker synergy and Starfield of Nyx. You just play 2 of those with Starfield of Nyx and then return either of those, I mean the one that's in the graveyard, every upkeep or end step. I don't know, it will be on the screen. So you make your opponent sacrifice a creature all the time. That's really interesting, but probably too slow for the current standard meta. However, it might see play in some sort of Super Friend standard deck. I mean, there's some cards to come still. I mean, there's some cards that I need to talk about still. So they might make some super friendish strategies in standard viable. And that would be really cool. In limited, this card is really great. It makes your opponent sacrifice a creature. It makes each opponent sacrifice a creature, so it's better into a giant. If you do it to a giant pre-release, play this card, because it makes both opponents sacrifice a creature. Liliana, the Last Hope, is 1 generic double black for a 3 loyalty planeswalker Liliana with +1. Up to 1 target creature gets -2/-1 until your next turn. -2, put the top 2 cards of your library in your graveyard. Then you may return a card from your graveyard, a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. -7, you get an emblem with at the beginning of your end step. Put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens on the battlefield, where X is 2 plus the number of zombies you control. Which means you get 2 zombies, then you get 4 zombies, then you get 8 zombies, then you get 16 zombies, then you get 32 zombies. But, I mean, obviously you'll have more zombies on the board by then. So that's cool, I guess. Really useful. People say this card is bad, but it's 3 mana. Its +1 can kill stuff, or at least really stall it, because 2 power, there's a lot of things that don't have more than 2 power or barely more than 2 power. And there's a lot of things that have 1 toughness, so it can kill some. -2, really useful. It's a Delirium enabler, it's a May trigger, so you don't even have to return the creature, but it can return a useful creature. -7, yeah, that's obviously a cool ultimate, but it's gonna take a long time before you actually get there. But overall, really great card. Not the best planeswalker we've seen. Tamio is obviously insanely good, but it's a good planeswalker nonetheless. Also not as good, not nearly as good as Liliana of the Veil, which was also 3 mana, which was a mistake. But it's a planeswalker and it's not a bad one. In limited, this card will be great. Outside of limited, this might see play in standard decks. This will probably see play in standard decks. More rough translation incoming. Selfless Soul is 1 generic 1 white for a 2/1 creature spirit with flying. You can sacrifice it to give all your creatures indestructible until end of turn. I don't know. Spirit decks? Nah. I mean, Commander, yeah, sure. Everything's Commander playable. This will be slightly better in Commander play. But standard, no, probably not. Outside of standard, probably not. In limited though, really great card. It's a 2/1 flying for 2, which is not bad. And you can sack it to save your creatures, which is great. So yeah, sure, play this card in limited. Incendiary Flow is 1 generic 1 red for a sorcery. It deals 3 damage to target creature or player. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. It's a sorcery speed lightning strike, but if you kill a creature with it, it gets exiled. Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all, actually. This is a solid burn spell. This is obviously insane and limited. Removal is insane and limited, but cheap removal is really insane and limited. It denies delirium effects, and it can also go to the player. Outside of limited, might not be as strong, except in standard. We'll probably see standard play. Deploy the Gatewatch is 4 generic double white for a sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 planeswalker cards from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Commander play, Super Friends. Garbage in limited. Absolutely terrible in limited. But if there's a Super Friends standard deck, yeah, this will be in it, obviously. If there is no Super Friends standard deck, then this card will only see play in Commander, because outside of those formats, it's terrible. It's way too slow. But hey, we'll see. That does it for day 6 of Eldritch Moon spoilers. I hope you enjoyed it. I really liked some of those cards. I'm glad they actually made the legendary spider. And yeah, looking forward to more of this set. It's really looking great so far. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!